In June of 1812, war broke out between the United States and Great Britain once again. This time, it was called the War of 1812. One of the most dramatic battles of this war occurred in the heart of the American Midwest. The Siege of Detroit. The city of Detroit was a crucial military center at the time. Located on the border between the United States and British-controlled Canada, General William Hull was in charge of the American forces in the region. His job was to defend Detroit and protect the surrounding area from British invasion. At first, things seemed to be going well for General Hull and the American forces. They successfully captured the strategic town of Fort Mackinac in July 1812, giving them control over the surrounding Great Lakes region. But all too soon, the situation began to deteriorate. The British forces, under the command of General Isaac Brock, quickly gained control over the Lake Erie region. This gave them a clear path to invade Detroit, which was now effectively isolated from the rest of the United States. General Hull had a difficult decision to make. He knew that his forces were vastly outnumbered and that he would not be able to hold off the British for long. On the other hand, if he surrendered quickly, the rest of the American forces would be demoralized and the British would gain a major victory in the war. In the end, General Hull decided to hold out as long as possible. For 6 long weeks, he and his troops fought bravely against the British onslaught. They attempted to keep the enemy at bay with artillery fire and fortifications. But it was ultimately a losing battle. The turning point came on August 15, when General Brock led a surprise attack on Detroit. The British forces invaded the city from several directions, easily overwhelming the undermanned American defenders. Despite the valiant efforts of General Hull and his men, they were ultimately forced to surrender. The Siege of Detroit was a crushing defeat for the United States. It resulted in the loss of one of their most strategic military centers and dealt a major blow to American morale, but it was also a turning point in the War of 1812. As news of the defeat spread throughout the country, Americans became even more determined to win the war. They began to rally around their cause and support their troops in any way possible. And in the end, this determination would lead to some of the greatest victories of the war, including the famous Battle of New Orleans. The Siege of Detroit was a dramatic and epic struggle that tested the limits of American resolve. It was a battle that would not soon be forgotten, and one that would ultimately help shape the course of American history.